leading international journals. He is currently Executive Director at the Center for Social Justice. So this is the right person to be our chairperson for today's launch. And let's welcome him, Professor Alexander. May I know your audience, please.
Thank you very much. And it's a real pleasure to be with our colleagues on such a special occasion. But before we proceed, maybe we could observe 30 seconds of silence for our fallen heroes, particularly our colleague, medical doctor, who fell in the course of duty yesterday. So maybe we can observe 30 seconds of silence and then we can proceed on. May God keep their souls, but not just them, but the souls of the 15 other children who were run over just a couple of weeks ago. I am very privileged and feel very privileged, the chairperson or the president of the Pediatric Association. I see Nana Joa Awindo, the Queen Mother and the newborn health advocate. I see her on the platform. I also see other prominent people. Maybe I would not be able to mention everybody, but for me, it's a privilege to be occupying this position and to be part of this discussion around breastfeeding at this time in our history. I think breast milk and breast milk feeding, beyond breastfeeding, is something that I thought God has given to us freely. In Africa, for a long time, it was the only way our babies were fed. And then suddenly, we had other ways that have come to adulterate what we were doing so well. And what shocked me most is that for over 20 years, between 2003, when the rate of exclusive breastfeeding in the first 5 months of life was quoted as 46.6%. 20 years down the line in 2002, the Ghana Demographic and Health Survey says that only 47.4% of women or babies 0 to 5 months were exclusively breastfed in the 2 years to the survey. So over 20 years, the only gain we made was 0.8%. I was sad when I saw it. The median duration of breastfeeding, 2.9 months, 3 months. And so this was a touching story to say that breast milk is completely free. Not to talk about 823,000 babies under 5 years who have been saved because they were breastfed in this country over time. And so it looks like there is more that we can do. On this occasion, when we are starting this breastfeeding month, I am praying that it will not just be a ceremony, but that whatever we are putting into this breastfeeding month should be something that leaves a lasting legacy for our country, because it has implications not only on survival, but beyond survival, to thriving of babies and children in our country. The evidence shows clearly that our study we did in Kintampo some years ago has shown that if you initiate breastfeeding within the first hour of life, it reduces neonatal mortality by 50%. We also found out that breastfeeding is not only associated with survival, but also early childhood development, because it has been linked with cognitive development, it's been linked with physical and sensory development, it's linked with socioeconomic development and socio-emotional development generally. It has been linked because it protects from illnesses. And we know that it reduces diarrhea by about 40%. It reduces upper respiratory tract infections by about the same margin. And because of these, the linkage between diarrhea and other causes, including the gut flora that has been linked to cognitive development and actual brain development, we know that there is a pathway for breast milk and breastfeeding to promote childhood development. And not just in childhood, because current studies that we are doing in epidemiology is looking at the life course epidemiology. And so we are seeing that most of the things that we go through in life, like the development of non-communicable diseases in later life, have been linked and programmed into what we have experienced in the first 1,000 to 3,000 days after conception. And breastfeeding has their potential to modulate and put them on the right track. Educational attainment, economic productivity have all been linked with breastfeeding. The interesting thing that I know is that the Ghanaian mother is one mother who is not shy to breastfeed in public. Sometimes it's embarrassing even to we males that you would be in a vehicle, in a trotro vehicle, and then somebody next to you suddenly starts breastfeeding the child in front of you. And it's embarrassing sometimes. But then it tells me that if we are not shy to breastfeed in places in public like that, then there is something wrong with our not being able to get early initiation when 88% of births are taking place in our facilities now. And also that we are not able to sustain exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life, knowing the benefits that it has for humanity in general. So my plea, even as I join this breastfeeding week lunch or month lunch, is that let's recount our steps. Let's go back to the basics. Let's look at what we can do as health workers, as mothers, as stakeholders, as interest groups on this platform now and beyond to look at making sure that we secure the future of our country and our generation by making sure that this breast milk, whose benefits are clear to everybody, is made available to our children. Denying them, for me personally, is a denial of a civil right, and it is injustice. So on this occasion, I call all of us to come together. Let's join hands and make sure that promoting breastfeeding is not just a rhetoric. It's not about T-shirts. It is not about polo shirts, but it's about reality to get action on the ground and secure the future of the generation after us. We have a duty, a call to respond to. And together, I think we can do it together. Thank you all for this time. And we can proceed. So I accept to chair this meeting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alexander Menu. That was really insightful. My take home has been that for today's meeting, our goal and our focus should be on lasting legacy for our country. And that's just beyond the survival of our children, but that they will thrive in the country. Thank you so much. We will take our first solidarity message from Dr. Kennedy Brightson of the Family Health Division, Ministry of Health. Dr. Kennedy Brightson, Family Health Division, Ministry of Health. We are ready for you.
Hello.
Hi, Dr. Brightson.
Hello, Dr. Bryson.
Hello.
Hi, Dr. Brightson. We can hear you.
Hello.
Hi, Dr. Brightson. We can hear you.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My good friend, the chairman, Professor Menu, the country representatives of the WHO, UNICEF, leadership of the Pediatric Society of Ghana, distinguished listeners, colleagues, partners, and the mothers of Ghana. It is my honor to bring warm greetings from the Family Health Division of the Ghana Health Service to you at the launch of the National Breastfeeding Month 2025 under the theme Strong Support for Strong Starts, empowering mothers in Ghana to breastfeed everywhere. According to the 2022 Ghana Demographic and Health Survey, nearly 47.4% of infants under 6 months are not exclusively breastfed. And as you know, the chairman made reference to this. The median duration of exclusive breastfeeding is just 2.9 months, far below the recommended 6 months. 41.8% of newborns do not begin breastfeeding within the first year, with rates exceeding 50% in Greater Accra, Ahafo, and Eastern regions. These numbers tell us one thing. We must act together to give every child the strong start they deserve. These numbers also remind us that breastfeeding support must be sustained, widespread, and international. At the Family Health Division, our mandate covers maternal, newborn, child, and adolescent health, as well as nutrition, all of which are central to breastfeeding. In collaboration with partners, we coordinate national breastfeeding policies and guidelines. We lead training for health professionals, midwives, nurses, community health nurses on breastfeeding counseling and support. We also support monitoring and supervision to ensure health facilities implement baby-friendly standards. And we work with regions and districts to promote breastfeeding-friendly environments in communities, workplaces, and public spaces. This month's theme is a direct reflection of the division's commitment to ensuring that no mother is left without the support she needs to give her child the strongest start in life. As we celebrate Breastfeeding Month this August, I encourage all health professionals across every region and facility to actively take part in this advocacy. Use your antenatal clinics, outpatient departments, pregnancy schools, and community gatherings to speak with mothers, families, and caregivers. Each conversation can strengthen and empower a mother's confidence and protect the child's health. I commend the Pediatric Society of Ghana for this leadership, for leading this important national initiative and bringing together partners professionals, and advocates. Your collaboration with the Family Health Division and the wider Ghana Health Service is a strong example of the partnerships needed to improve maternal and child health in Ghana. Your continued commitment to advocacy, awareness, and partnership is making a tangible difference in the lives of Ghana's children and mothers. The theme, Strong Support for Strong Starts, reminds us that empowering mothers is everyone's responsibility. It is a call to coordinated action. Together, through the Ghana Health Service, the Family Health Division, the Pediatric Society of Ghana, and all partners, we can ensure that every mother receives the support she needs and every child receives the nourishment they deserve. I'd like to remind all of us here today that we are what we are and we have reached what we have reached because we're breastfed and breastfed well. Otherwise, things would have been different. I thank you very much, and may God bless you and bless today's program.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. That was Dr. Brightson from the Family Health Division, Ghana Health Service. Thank you so much for honoring our invitation. My highlight from what you shared is that all healthcare workers must be actively involved in empowering mothers to support the breastfeeding woman. Thank you so much. An honor to have you with us.
Thank you.
Our next solidarity message is coming from none other than the Queen Mother of Accra, Nana Hima Adjoa Awindo. And she's a distinguished Ghanaian filmmaker, broadcaster, and marketing executive with over 30 years of experience in project management, social advocacy, and sustainable organizational development. She's the founder of Obapa Development Foundation, which is a nonprofit dedicated to championing women's rights, youth empowerment, and child protection. She's also a revered cultural leader from the Ashanti Kingdom in Ghana, committed to community empowerment. She happens to be the first practicing professional camera woman, and she has made significant strides in the media industry. She serves as the CEO of Premier Productions Group and the National Coordinator for Unity Queens Ghana. She's the convener of the Ghana National Union of Queen Mothers and Continental Board of the African Queens, Women Cultural Leaders Network, among many others. Beyond her media and advocacy roles, Nana Hima serves on various boards, including international civil society organizations, NGOs, rural banks, and women in business networks. She has also contributed to local and international communities, including the Child and Family Welfare Policy and Child Justice Policy in Ghana. Nana Hima's advocacy work focuses on newborn care, child protection, gender equality, community development with a strong commitment to ending child marriage, gender-based violence, and social injustices affecting women and children. Through her visionary leadership, she continues to inspire, empower, and drive meaningful change across Ghana, the African continent, and the world at large. We are happy to have you with us, so let's welcome Nana Hima Awindo. We are ready for you, Nana Hima.
Thank you very much. I was actually waiting for you to unmute me.
Sorry about that.
Thank you. Thank you so very much. Professor Menu, hello. Development partners, distinguished guests, health professionals, mothers and fathers, parents, caregivers, community leaders here, and
Sorry, it appears we have a bit of a network connection problem at her end.
So I think I should commend you very much for putting this program campaign together, especially the Greater Accra team who put this launch together. Thank you so much. I appreciate the time that you spent for the generation. Today, we raise our voices in unity. Now, every Ghanaian mother who carries not just the weight of her child, but also the dreams, the future, and the promise of our nation. Breastfeeding is not just an act, it's a legacy. It's a natural gift. And you may be surprised to hear that my adopted daughter in the United States gave birth recently. Those of you who saw me holding a baby, it's just about a month and a half now. And even though she lives in the States, I insisted that she does total Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, please. The line was disconnected for a few minutes, but we can hear now.
Oh, you can hear me now. I'm so sorry. I think it's a network. So before the line went off, I was talking about the fact that I take breastfeeding, exclusive breastfeeding, very, very serious. And the fact that my adopted daughter in the States, living in the United States, had a baby, and I insisted that she should have exclusive breastfeeding. And I'm very happy that she accepted to do that. So I ensured that even if she's away from the baby, we fed the baby with expressed breast milk exclusively. And she's continuing to do that. So I know the essence of, using breast milk from the mother, apart from the fact that it enhances, relationship with the baby and the mother. And this is something that we have tried to ensure, to pass it on to communities. When we are doing our advocacy work in the communities, we try to encourage our mothers to do exclusive and to let them understand the benefits of doing exclusive breastfeeding. The relationship with your child, your baby, is very important. And those are the moments that you share those very, very sensitive time with the baby. Baby looks at mother, mother looks at baby, smiles, talks, and all that. That relationship cannot be generated when you are doing bottle feeding. It's not the same. So it's a natural gift passed on from mother to child that provides life. It protects and it also provides strength. It is the first bond of life. It is the first defense against diseases. And the young lady was asking me, Mommy, the first breast milk that came, it looks a bit darker. I say, yes, that's even most rich part of your breast milk. That has all the nutrients. So we need to continue to speak about what it is to our people, our communities. This is the reason why champions, the work of our champions is very, very important. And we need to continue to encourage that. Whether there are projects for them to work in the communities or not, I encourage Pediatric Association to come together with the newborn care champions so we can do programs in the communities together. We need to encourage the younger ones, especially, and mothers generally, that from the first drop of colostrum to months of nourishment, breastfeeding lays a foundation that no policy, no product, and no substitute can replicate, especially when young girls think that when they breastfeed, their breasts are going to sag and they need to, protect it. I don't know who they're protecting the breasts for, but we need to continue to, let them understand that protecting their breast is not the same as nourishing their children and giving them the health that they need. Yet, even with all these benefits, we know that many mothers face barriers. Some of them are discouraged at workplaces, others are ashamed in public. When Doc was talking about somebody breastfeeding in public, I've done it before several times. One time, I'm not able to feed the babies whenever they want to do it. It brings restrictions, and this must change, because when we fail to support breastfeeding, we fail our mothers and we fail our children, our babies. Let us be clear, supporting breastfeeding is not the responsibility of mothers alone. It's a collective duty. So we call on fathers, employers, community leaders, policymakers, especially, to invest in healthcare, public education, and infrastructure, because the health of a nation begins in the arms of a mother. Let us build a Ghana where breastfeeding is celebrated, not hidden, where no mother is judged, rushed, or left behind, where every child, regardless of where they are born, can receive the best possible start in life. Investing in breastfeeding is investing in Ghana's future. This is very, very clear. It improves child survival, it boosts cognitive development, it reduces health costs, and contributes to economic growth. Times of hardship, it offers security of it. Let's build a stronger, healthy Ghana. It starts with our babies. Hello.
Hello, please, we can hear you now.
Oh, so did I go off again?
The line was breaking up multiple.
Because I finished. So did I go off? Oh my goodness. So please, where did you hear me up to?
I think we have for that.
Wow.
Maybe you can just repeat your last statement and then we can proceed.
Oh, okay. So I was talking about many mothers face barriers. I don't know if you heard that I gave an example that I breastfed my child in a bus in US.
Yeah.
And I even did it not to
Due to the challenge,
there were words that feel as hello, I'm still not reaching you.
hello, Nana Hima, we are here.
I'm still not reaching you. Oh, is the line
Yes,
still cutting off?
yes, it is. But we have head up to the point of overcoming the barriers, helping mothers to overcome the barriers of breastfeeding.
Okay.
And so I think we got the most.
Exactly. Oh, I'm just concluding, and I was talking about the support systems we need. You can hear me now, right?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I was talking about the support systems we need, because supporting breastfeeding is not just the responsibility of the mother alone. It's a collective duty. So I was talking about the role of the father as a partner and the protectors. They need to be supportive of their wives and mothers. We're talking about employers and, maternity friendly programs and all that. We're talking about policy that will protect women and all that. So I said we should come together and push this agenda. We shouldn't just celebrate a day. We should move it into the months. Let the, all the champions put it out there in their programs. I heard one of our speakers talking about community engagement. We have a lot of them coming up. In fact, we have one with partnering with Pediatric Association coming up in Cape Coast during the Ugwa Festival. We are looking at opportunities to spread the word and to let our nation, grow, because definitely a nation that will grow starts with our babies, starts with our children. Healthy children, produces healthy nations. And that is why I think we should all come together and push this agenda of exclusive breastfeeding, especially for our mothers to be, to abide by it. I want to thank you for the opportunity to be part of this amazing program. I was actually correcting the fact that I am not Queen Mother of Accra. I'm the development Queen Mother of Ifija Kwabre in
Okay, it appears we've lost her again, but correction well noted. Thank you so much, Nana Hima, for joining us. And I have learned that we need to raise our voices in unity for the dreams, future, and promise of our nation. I'd like to draw attention to the fact that there will be links in the chat box for CPD and evaluation forms later during the conversation, so we can keep our eye on it. I also see Dr. Ikia Adi, the Ayawaso West District Director, on. Thank you so much for joining us. You're most welcome. We finally have our keynote address from the WHO rep to Ghana, Dr. Fiona Braka. She's a public health professional with an MPH from the Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health. Dr. Fiona has worked for WHO for the past 18 years, supporting countries, including her native Uganda, Ethiopia, and Nigeria, to build capacity to deliver vaccines. We are honored to have her here today to give us the keynote address. Dr. Braka, your audience.
Thank you very much, and good evening or good afternoon to everyone. I recognize all the previous speakers that have spoken in your different capacities, and to all of you members of the Pediatric Society of Ghana. I'm indeed honored to deliver the keynote address today as the Pediatric Society of Ghana officially launches the 2025 National Breastfeeding Month under the theme Strong Support for Strong Start, Empowering Mothers in Ghana to Breastfeed Everywhere. This theme aligns closely with our shared mission, and it echoes the WHO's ongoing Healthy Beginnings, Hopeful Futures campaign, which began on World Health Day in April 2025. As we commemorate World Breastfeeding Week, we spotlight the critical need to support women throughout their breastfeeding journey. Breastfeeding it's not just a health issue, it's also a development imperative critical to achieve many of the sustainable development goals of improving nutrition, that's the SDG 2, preventing child mortality and decreasing the risk of non-communicable diseases in SDG 3, and supporting cognitive development and education outlined in SDG 4. Breastfeeding is also an enabler to ending poverty, promoting economic growth, as the Queen Mother said, and reducing inequalities. Supporting breastfeeding means ensuring that every mother has access to the information and assistance that she needs to breastfeed for as long as she chooses. This requires investing in supportive environments at home, in healthcare settings, and in the workplace. Breast milk provides all the energy and the nutrients an infant needs in the first months of life. It continues to meet up to half or more of a child's nutritional needs during the second half of the first year, and up to 1/3 during the second year of life. Breastfed children perform better on intelligence tests, they perform better in school, and they are less likely to be overweight or obese or have a lower risk of diabetes later in life. Women who breastfeed also benefit from a reduced risk of breast and ovarian cancers. Globally, increasing breastfeeding could prevent over 820,000 child deaths and 20,000 maternal deaths from breast cancer annually. In Ghana, where child malnutrition and neonatal mortality remain pressing concerns, improving breastfeeding rates can be a life-saving intervention. Breast milk offers superior nutritional value compared to formula due to its dynamic composition and bioactive components that support optimal growth and development. It also contains vital antibodies and immune factors that protect against infections, benefits that formula cannot replicate. To safeguard breastfeeding, the International Code of Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes, adopted by the World Health Assembly in 1981, regulates the marketing of breast milk substitutes. Ghana's National Breastfeeding Protection Regulation L1 1967, enacted in 2000, is substantially aligned with this code, reflecting our national commitment. We want to urge strict enforcement of this regulation in all health facilities across Ghana. WHO and UNICEF recommend initiating breastfeeding within the first hour of birth, exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months, and continued breastfeeding alongside safe complementary foods up to 2 years or beyond. However, challenges still persist, and the speakers before me have shared the statistics from the 2022 Ghana Demographic and Health Survey around breastfeeding. So I will not repeat those, but while these statistics mark progress, the trends underscore both the gains made and the persistent challenges in sustaining exclusive breastfeeding, particularly beyond the first few months of life. These gaps are not due to lack of awareness, they stem from a lack of support. So empowering women to breastfeed everywhere begins with strong support systems in health facilities, in workplaces, and in communities. Health facilities must lead the way. The baby-friendly hospital initiative that was launched by WHO and UNICEF in 1991 encourages maternity and newborn services to implement the 10 steps to successful breastfeeding. Revised in 2018, these steps include establishing breastfeeding policies, training health workers and lactation consultants, and ensuring coordinated discharge planning to provide continued support after mothers leave the facility. One of the most common reasons why breastfeeding ends prematurely is the need for mothers to return to work without adequate support. Paid maternity leave for 6 months or more significantly increases the likelihood of continued breastfeeding. Also, paternity leave enables fathers to support breastfeeding mothers. Workplaces must provide hygienic breastfeeding rooms, storage facilities, breastfeeding breaks, access to childcare, and flexible working arrangements. These provisions help mothers to continue to breastfeed for as long as they choose. To further strengthen global efforts, WHO and UNICEF created the Global Breastfeeding Collective, which mobilizes political, legal, financial, and public support. WHO's net code monitors the marketing of breast milk substitute, and WHO also provides training for health workers to offer skilled breastfeeding support and to monitor child growth. Ladies and gentlemen, in Ghana, WHO is collaborating with the Ministry of Health and its agencies to enforce the L1 1667 and integrate breastfeeding support into primary health care and community health planning services. As I conclude, I would like to congratulate the Pediatric Society of Ghana on behalf of WHO for its tireless advocacy for the health of Ghanaian children. As a pediatric society, you are frontline champions of breastfeeding. My urge to you is to promote breastfeeding-friendly policies in your institutions, to mentor junior colleagues in lactation support, to advocate for workplace reforms that support breastfeeding mothers, and to engage families and communities to promote breastfeeding as a shared responsibility. I believe together we can build a Ghana where every breastfeeding mother feels confident and supported throughout her journey. I thank you all for your attention and for being here to commemorate an important topic, the National Breastfeeding Month. Thank you very much, and back to you, moderator.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fiona Baraka, for that. I think for me, the highlight was the need for us to advocate for workplace reforms to support breastfeeding mothers, as it's one of the identified challenges that we currently have. And hopefully with this launch and with this webinar, we can work on advocating for that. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we are bringing our lunch. And we would invite our chairperson. So we will have Professor Alex Menu to give us his final remarks.
Thank you very much. So this has been a very fruitful time. I observe all protocols, see reps from WHO, UNICEF, more importantly, Ghana Health Service, other agencies of the Ministry of Health, academia, members of the Pediatric Society. I mentioned Nana Hima and maybe other Nananum who are on the platform that I could not mention, and all protocols observed. I was happy when I was listening to all the speakers that have come after the opening remarks. And I think that everything that we are talking about is gearing towards getting this strong support for these healthy starts or strong starts that we want in the lives of our country. Dr. Brighton said that, who is my brother, said that every conversation should be able to increase mothers' ability and confidence to breastfeed and secure the futures of their children, and for that matter, the future of our country. And I like what Nana Hima said when she said, the health of a nation begins in the arms of a mother. I think it's a profound statement. That what we want to do is to be able to support mothers to be able to do this. And if I listen to what our WHO rep said, the WR said, it is again highlighting key interventions that we have put in place over time to make sure that we are able to meet our targets, which for me, I call an ethical call for our future. Again, I'll reiterate what I said from the beginning, that the breastfeeding month should not just be about sloganeering and t-shirts and polo shirts, but it should be translated into actionable activities that at the end of the day, we want to see our mothers empowered to secure the future of their children, and for that matter, the future of our country. We cannot stay on the fence. In certain situations, staying neutral is injustice. And breastfeeding is one of these situations. So on this note, I just want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in. But I also want to say that this is just the beginning of a month-long journey. And I think that one day we would all have to account for being part of the team who could have made a change, and whether we were able to make the change or we decided to leave it to others. I thank you all for your attention. I thank you all for your interest, and I thank you all for the support that we've given towards securing the future of our children. Thank you very much. And thank you, Pediatric Society, for this great organization, pulling together over 220 people on this platform so that we can have the voices heard and let the message go around the country and beyond. Thank you. Over.
Thank you so much, Prof. Menu, for being here with us. Before we move on to another exciting part of the program, the webinar, I'd just like to acknowledge everybody on the call. Thank you for joining us. We had Dr. Imohe from UNICEF join us. Unfortunately, we want to take a virtual picture. So if you are able, kindly put your video on so we can take a virtual picture of this virtual breastfeeding clinic so we can remember all of us. So kindly put your videos on so we take a quick picture. Nice. Happy to see the faces. Please smile. Trying to get as many shots as I can. Okay. Thank you all. Good to see your faces. Thank you all for joining. We'll be moving to our webinar. And to introduce our chairperson for the webinar. So as mentioned earlier, we are talking about strong support for a strong start. And this is empowering mothers in Ghana to breastfeed everywhere. To introduce our chairperson for the webinar, we have Sister Joyce Mawina Apau to do the introduction of our chairperson.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. So, this is a very great personality, and I'm happy to be the one to introduce him as our chair. So, we are talking about Nana Okai Braku. He's not just a doctor, but a chief for that matter, and a pediatrician with a GEPS, currently in fellowship as neonatology, had his medical training in Cuba in 1997, hold diploma in child health and membership in pediatric, all from the Ghana College of Physicians. Also holds a certificate in management at GIMPA. Invention, very instrumental in establishment of NICUs across the country, especially Greater Accra, and was very pivotal in Please, can I be heard?
Yes, please, we can hear you.
Okay, my network dropped. So he also collaborated on research exploring a small phone-based screening that was called NEO-SCB, that's neonatal scleral conjunctival bilirubin, to detect neonatal jaundice. He's a family man of 4 children, and also not just a lecturer to the medical student, but to nurses and midwives as well. And being his student, one thing I can say is that he's very disciplinarian. So team, our chair for today is Dr. Nana Okai Braku. Doctor, your host. So you're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the introduction. I am Nana Okai Braku. I start by saying good afternoon. All protocols observed. That's distinguished guests, speakers, and participants. I warmly welcome you to this Breastfeeding Month lunch under the theme Strong Support for a Strong Start, empowering mothers in Ghana to breastfeed everywhere, and not just everywhere, but anytime, everywhere. A lot has been said already. So I'm going to say that breastfeeding is a powerful foundation for lifelong health. Yet, for many mothers, the decision to and ability to breastfeed depends on the support they receive from the community, the workplaces, families, friends, and the healthcare system. Today, we will explore how each of us can contribute to creating an environment where every mother feels confident and empowered to breastfeed anytime and anywhere. I thank our partners, health professionals, advocates for their commitment to this cause. Let us be inspired. Let us share ideas. Let us take action to strengthen support for every child's best start in life. This is a very brief and short introduction to the second session for this inauguration. Thank you. So at this juncture, I'll call the host to take over so that the webinar would commence. We already have the presenters, so we can start so that we'll take questions and contributions thereafter. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bracco, our chairperson for today. Thank you for joining us. We'll proceed with introduction of our first speaker. We have 3 speakers. During the presentations, all questions can be put in the chat box, and there'll be a special time for questions and answers. So for our first speaker, we have a lactation consultant in the person of Dr. Lauren Asamoah. She's a medical doctor and international board certified lactation consultant with a solid foundation in midwifery. Her journey began as a trained and practicing midwife, where she developed a profound appreciation for the critical role of breastfeeding in maternal and child health. Driven by this passion, she advanced her training in both medicine and lactation. Today, Dr. Asamoah is committed to providing mothers with practical, evidence-based support and support breastfeeding families. So I believe that Dr. Asamoah, with a background of midwifery, which is a very rare combination, is the right person to take us through tips on lactation and breastfeeding as health workers and also as parents. Dr. Asamoah, we are ready for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pediatric Society, for this opportunity to speak to you. So as mentioned, my name is Dr. Lauren Asamoah. I am a medical doctor and a lactation consultant. For those of you that don't know what a lactation consultant's role is in breastfeeding, we start all the way from pregnancy throughout to weaning. We're there to educate, advocate for our mothers, help them with breastfeeding, take them through supply, attachment, and also help them with any difficulties that they may be having. So I thank you for this opportunity. We are few in Ghana, we're just 3, but hopefully after this webinar, I'll pipe the interest of some of you and we'll be able to increase those numbers to really better support our mothers in Ghana. So I will share my screen at this point and my video will go off just to help maintain the network for this session. So just share my screen. I hope we can all see my screen. Can we all see my screen, please?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So today I'll be talking to us about lactation and breastfeeding, particularly with the motive of nourishing the future together. So when we look at lactation and breastfeeding, I'm sure you're all wondering what exactly is so special about this breast milk. Breast milk is already 87% water. It contains a lot of vitamins and minerals, carbohydrates, enzymes, antibodies, proteins, which are all really important building blocks for babies in that first 6 months and even beyond to 12 months and 18 months. We find that between 6 to 12 months, breast milk is actually providing about half of the nutritional needs for a baby. So it is actually something that's very important that continues to provide building blocks even beyond that 6 months that the WHO recommends. Now, when we look at lactation itself, we know that it's a physiological process by which milk is produced by our mammary glands, which is regulated by 2 key hormones being prolactin and oxytocin, prolactin being key for milk production, and then oxytocin being very key for the milk ejection. Now, often many of us tend to wonder, especially as mothers and health clinicians, what impedes the regulation of these hormones? What's going to affect me producing this milk and essentially affect my general breastfeeding outcomes? We have anxiety and stress as key factors, particularly when it comes to cortisol regulation. And then we have separation, which I'm sure a lot of our NICU mums are familiar with. That is actually something that can impair this lactation process, as well as delayed initiation, which we'll be touching on subsequently and hopefully be able to avoid for our mothers moving forward. So the reason why breastfeeding matters so much is just because of how beneficial it is to both our mother and baby. For our babies, we know that it's providing complete nutrition. It's a perfect mix of our fats and our proteins and carbohydrates. It's giving them wonderful immune boosters. We know that everything that you've been exposed to as a mother and you've built all your antibodies against, it's going to be transferred to your baby via breast milk. So that's one awesome thing about breast milk. And there's even research that it's even able to help avert sudden infant death syndrome, which is quite a big thing. Aside from that, for our mother, we know that it's going to help with her postpartum recovery, particularly in the way of uterine involution. It's going to help reduce that risk of developing breast cancer, as well as help promote maternal and infant bonding. And aside from that, for society as a whole, it reduces a burden on the healthcare systems. And particularly when we look at it from an economical stand view, we know that breastfeeding is free and it's sustainable, and there's going to be much less environmental waste as compared to formula feeding. Now, one thing that plagues a lot of mothers is milk supply. And I'm sure that as clinicians, we've had a lot of mothers come to you and just tell you, I don't have milk. I don't have any milk at all. It's something that we tend to see, particularly in the first 24 hours. I've seen it at recovery where you ask mothers, why haven't you put your baby to breast? And she'll just tell you from the get-go, I don't have any milk. And often they're quite surprised when you show them how to express and they see that instantly there's colostrum in that breast. We know that from about 16 weeks, your body is actually laying that foundation and producing that colostrum. So all mothers have that potential to produce breast milk, but it comes with educating and supporting our mothers and explaining to them how they're going to boost that supply. One key thing is frequent breastfeeding. Unfortunately, a lot of the women that I've consulted that are NICU mums tend to have difficulty with supply, and the big thing is with the frequency of their breastfeeding. Most of the time when you ask them, they'll tell you that I only feed about 4 or 5 times, or I express about 4 or 5 times a day. And in their mind, initially when baby was in NICU, that was all that was being demanded of them. Baby wasn't taking high milk supplies, and now they've gone home, and here you have this baby wanting a lot of milk. Unfortunately, mother doesn't have the supply. So the onus is on us as clinicians to make sure that we start that conversation early and we help mothers build the supply even before they go home. Aside from that, ineffective latch is going to affect your transfer of breast milk and is going to affect your supply. So for all of us, it's important that we're able to see the signs of a good latch and help mothers. And also avoiding introduction of pacifiers and formula feeds, which we really don't encourage unless medically indicated. And then avoiding stress are all ways in which we can help promote a mother's milk supply. Now, key tools that we can use in regards to helping mothers with breastfeeding and lactation is having diagrams around that show correct position. A lot of women are visual learners, and sometimes it can be difficult when all you're doing is explaining it verbally. It helps to have pictorials and even explaining and providing information on what to do with that expressed milk. If you have a woman who's deciding to solely express her milk, it's important to explain to them how to safely store that milk. And it also helps to educate women about common issues such as engorgement and mastitis. I've met a lot of women who day 3, day 4, once their milk comes in, have engorgement. They don't know how to deal with it. And then because of that continued milk stasis, they're at risk of mastitis. So it's important for us to be educating our mothers. They say the blow you expect is softer than the one that you don't see coming. So if we're able to empower these women and help them to understand some of these common issues, they know what to do and they're more likely to feed for that 6 months that we're targeting. So this here is a flyer. I'm a part of Leaf Ghana. We've developed this as part of our NICU to Home program, which basically is a flyer that kind of addresses breastfeeding in the NICU, attachment, supply, positioning, and it's just kind of a way and a means to help our mothers in the NICU, a pictorial image to assist them in this space. I'm happy to share this after our session, but basically just to touch briefly on our NICU to Home. Basically, what we aim to do is to try and train the trainers such that we can empower health workers and empower the community to better support mothers and provide capacity building through training and push hospitals to become baby-friendly hospitals. That's really what we're about at Leaf Ghana and Africa. Now, moving on here, I have a video. Basically, this is what is showing beautiful and awesome attachment. As you can see, babies going under and over, exploring at the breast and the nipple before coming. You see mother pushing baby in to ensure that that nipple is not sitting on the hard palate, but sits at the soft palate. So that's really kind of what we're targeting when we're helping mothers and trying to help them get an awesome attachment. So it's really key that as clinicians, we know what it looks like so we can help mothers. Aside from that, you want to make sure that when they're attaching, there's no noise, no clicking, and it's comfortable, because at the end of the day, breastfeeding should not be painful. Now, the pediatrician's role in all of this is education, education, education. The more you tell your mothers, the more prepared they are, and the more likely they are going to feed beyond that 6-month period. And advocacy is very key, protecting that space for breastfeeding, and also promotion of skin-to-skin in our NICU spaces, which is going to mean that we're going to try and delay unnecessary tests and weighing and avoid unnecessary supplementation and discouraging formula unless medically indicated. We tend to find that we are in a hurry to feed our babies as soon as they come to the NICUs, even when not always medically indicated. So as clinicians, we need to take our time, because sometimes mothers will come in, it's like, oh, my baby's already been given formula. I wasn't aware. I didn't even know I was supposed to start expressing. So even before they arrive, we've kind of pushed them 2 steps back, and they don't know they should even be expressing. So that's also important. And I think as clinicians, we need to start adding breastfeeding to our management plans. Aside from saying these babies need fluids, labs, tests, we should be adding to our plans directives that mothers should be expressing 8 to 12 times a day if we want them to build an adequate supply. If they don't know, they won't do it. Just by telling them that baby's taking maybe 15 mils or 30 mils, it's not enough. We need to tell them how best to build the foundation so that when this baby goes home, that nutrition is going to be met. And also, it's really important, as we have it now available, to be utilizing our milk banks as and when, and then recognize when to refer to a lactation consultant. We're available, and if and when it's required, call us and we will come in as and when it's needed. Now, just to touch on the WHO recommendations that have already been mentioned, we know that early initiation within 1 hour of birth is key. We know that that's going to increase the likelihood of a sustained exclusive breastfeeding experience. And we know that by hitting the targets as a baby-friendly hospital, I've just outlined and shown the pictorial here, we're going to be able to support these mothers. But the reality on the ground is currently we're not breastfeeding as we should. Even as we look in 2021, we know that about 63,000 there were 63,000 childhood deaths that were due to diarrheal diseases. And we know that one of the key ways of averting these diarrheal diseases is through breastfeeding, because now you know that you're avoiding exposure to poor water supply. You know that you don't have to deal with sanitation in terms of mother's hygiene as much as you would need to be quite strict with formula. So breastfeeding is really a way that we're going to push to reduce these under 5 deaths. Aside from that, we've seen that there's been a dramatic drop between over the past few years. Initially, breastfeeding rates were around 63%, and now as at 2021, we were seeing 43%. And the question often ponders is why? And it just comes down to the fact that, do we really practice what we preach? Now, if we look at research that's currently available, we know that clinicians were key for promoting exclusive breastfeeding, but research has shown that even amongst ourselves, we fall short. There's been studies in Nigeria and Ethiopia that have shown that
Hello?
Sorry, I think I was muted. So my sound went off. I hope we've not missed too much. Please, where did you hear up to before I was muted?
Yeah, the next slide.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, that's great.
So as I mentioned, regarding whether we're practicing what we preach, we have seen that there is a decline regarding the maintenance of exclusive breastfeeding amongst clinicians themselves. And the main concerns that we've seen is there's, yes, a low income barrier amongst some in regards to being able to afford resources and support. And then for our high income mothers, we've seen that there's a lack of time as well as partner support. So now that we see why these things are happening, what's the way to overcome all of this? So how do we really change the narrative, particularly in the workplace? One thing that has been shown is that workplace interventions really do help in increasing the duration of breastfeeding and prevent early introduction of substitutes. So what we can be doing is allowing for lactation spaces, safe spaces in which mothers can go to express their milk, having breast milk extraction breaks within their day-to-day breaks so that they can take that time to express without feeling judged while doing it. And one thing that has been working in some places is offering women the opportunity to combine their annual leave with their maternity leave, and even producing hybrid return to works for fields that do allow women to work from home. So if it can even grant them that 2 months extra at home to be able to really tailor to their baby's needs, that's something we should really be looking at. Aside from that too, we have just general proximity. I think recently some facilities are trying to introduce crèches into their workplaces so that mothers have that ability to take that time to breastfeed their babies. But I think there is still more to be done on this front. So again, when we look at supporting our mothers, we're looking at our health systems, particularly availability of skilled staff who know what they're doing and know how to help these mothers in regards to their attachment and breastfeeding concerns. I think one thing that the districts tend to do very well is they have their public health nurses which visit the mothers in their homes, follow up. So I think that's something that we can also take up in the inner cities. Aside from that, availability of equipment, there are mothers who don't have the funds or the ability to afford breast pumps. And one thing that we do beautifully at Leaf is we rent out breast pumps for women who want to just use it for a period of time and not necessarily want to purchase it. And we are open to doing that in collaboration with hospitals and NICUs to allow that to be something they can be offering to their mothers. These are hospital grade pumps that are available. Aside from that too, as mentioned, our workplace support, also having peer support groups is very big. It helps mothers having an avenue and people to speak to and understand that they're not alone. Other people have done this. They've been able to get through certain breastfeeding challenges, and it kind of lets them know that they're also going to make it through on the other side. And aside from that, we know that family involvement is key. We find that women who have great familial supports are able to hit that 6 month. So just briefly, I'll just target a few myths that I'm sure we've all heard. One thing is that many say that breast milk alone is not enough, and that's false. Up to 6 months, that's all you need. It provides all the nutritional needs for your baby 100%. Aside from that too, some say that their breasts are too small, so the assumption is they will not be able to make enough milk. That is not true at all. Your body has the capacity to make the milk that your baby requires. It just comes down to starting that foundation early and making sure that you're expressing. Aside from that too, there's the assumption that when baby is crying, it means baby's hungry and the breast milk is not enough, particularly in that early phase, day 2 to day 3, when babies are cluster feeding. Babies know that in that initial phase, they need to cluster feed and stimulate the breast to help you make that breast milk. So even if you top up your baby at that point, they're still going to be looking for the breast because they know that they need to be part of that initial foundation to make sure that when they're taking larger volumes, those volumes are available. So don't be too scared at that point. Allow your baby to explore the breast and be feeding on demand, as in when baby wants it, even if it's every 30 minutes, allow it. Baby know what they're doing. then there's this notion that breastfeeding makes breasts sag. Not necessarily. Whether you do, whether you don't, your body undergoes various changes due to pregnancy. So having that assumption that if I breastfeed, my breasts won't be nice anymore, no, that doesn't have a scientific bearing or basis. And then we have some people saying that formula is more modern and better for busy mothers. And look, at the end of the day, when you think about it, formula, you now have to sterilize your bottles. You now have to be purchasing your formula, making your particular mixes, making sure your water's hot, appropriate temperatures. Whereas breast milk, you just remove your breast and you give it to your baby. When you balance that out, which one is really easier for a busy mother? And lastly is you can't breastfeeding on medication. That is not true. It is important to have a dialogue with your clinician about which medications you're on and which are okay, and do not pass into breast milk and cause no concern. So don't just assume that I'm on this medication so I can't breastfeed. No, start that dialogue with your clinician and let's address it from the get-go. So the last thing I'd kind of like to leave us with is that breastfeeding needs multiple levels of support, but above all, mothers, trust your bodies and seek help early. And our pediatricians and health workers, we should be advocating for breastfeeding. We should be staying informed and abreast with up-to-date information and working with lactation experts to be able to help our mothers. I believe that together we can really nourish the future. So these here are my references. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so much, Dr. Asamoah. This was insightful, very educative, even in the short time, sticking to your time. And we've had a lot of our myths corrected. If you have any questions for Dr. Asamoah, kindly put it in the chat box, even as we prepare for our second speaker. So we have in our midst Dr. Mamekia Baden. She's a specialist psychiatrist at Pantan Hospital. She's a member of the Ghana College of Physicians and West Africa College of Physicians Psychiatry. She's also a part-time lecturer at the University of Ghana Medical School and the Accra College of Medicine. She is a passionate mental health advocate, and we are honored to have her here today to talk about often a forgotten part of breastfeeding support, which is the psychological aspect of support. So we're going to talk about the importance of the psychological support. How do we really support mothers going through this psychologically? So Dr. Mamekia Baden, your audience.
Thank you very much, Dr. Fukobwedu. I'll proceed to share my slides. Okay, please, can my screen be seen?
Yes, please, we can see.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So I'm going to be speaking on breastfeeding and mental health. And I'm a psychiatrist with an interest in perinatal psychiatry. I would like to congratulate the Pediatric Society of Ghana on the successful launch of the National Breastfeeding Week. And I hope that this conversation can also contribute to helping us to appreciate the role of mental health when it comes to breastfeeding. So this is my outline. We look at the interplay and also take a brief look at maternal mental health, looking at the various things that go into it and the benefits of breastfeeding for both mother and infant when it comes to mental health, support systems as has already been described. And we'll look at strategies for promoting mental well-being in breastfeeding mothers and treatment approaches. So we do understand that has already been stated. I do not need to belabor the point that breastfeeding is very crucial. It's the key source of infant nutrition for healthy growth and development. But in this case, I want to highlight the growth in terms of mental growth. Now, we understand mental health as a state of complete health as a state of complete physical, social, and mental well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. This is just to highlight the fact that the definition of health is not complete without mental health. And so we say that there is no health without mental health. And when it comes to maternal mental health, we're basically referring to mental health in the woman during and after pregnancy. And this goes up to 1 year postpartum. So it doesn't end at the 6-week appointment or 6 months. We're looking at up to 1 year, everything having to do with that new mother and her mental health. And this has effects on the in utero fetus. The maternal mental health has effects on the in utero fetus, the mother-infant dyad post-delivery, and even on families. Because if the mother is not well or the infant is not well, it has ripple effects on the whole family. So we'll look at common postpartum mental health issues. And the first we'll describe as postpartum blues, and also known as baby blues. And this basically refers to a period of emotional instability post-birth. It's not a disorder, meaning that it does not impair function. It usually peaks around days 3 to 5, and it does not necessarily affect how the mother is able to take care of the child. However, for postpartum mood and anxiety disorder is basically a condition that affects daily function. And for mood disorders, we are talking about depression, bipolar disorder, psychosis. For anxiety disorders, we have the generalized anxiety disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder, which is quite common in postpartum mothers. But notice that the postpartum blues does not form part of the disorders. It's common, as we'll see now, for over 80% of women. It's a transient period of mood instability, usually peaks around day 3 to 5, may last for up to 2 weeks, but the mother is usually fine, able to go about her activities, and does not have any major hits to her self-esteem. However, for postpartum depression, this is a persistent and debilitating change in mood, usually with a low mood. It's associated with feeling of sadness, poor sleep, not being able to eat well, feeling of worthlessness or hopelessness, and sometimes suicidal tendency, homicidal tendency, or infanticidal tendency. So basically, either a tendency for self-harm or a tendency to harm the baby or kill the baby. It's common in about 15 to 20% of women postpartum, and about 60% of women with postpartum depression have been found to have anxiety disorder. So these are the two main things I would want to highlight. Time would not permit that we go into all the others, but obsessive compulsive disorder is also quite common postpartum. And then we also have post-traumatic stress disorder, usually as a result of some of the traumatic experiences that women have during delivery. So this is going to be my main slide. I would want us to look at the relationship between breastfeeding and postpartum mood and anxiety disorders. And we say that breastfeeding is protective against PMATs. So what happens in breastfeeding is that breastfeeding reduces body inflammation, and it also mitigates the stress hormone response. Cortisol levels are low, oxytocin and prolactin are high, and these are associated with increase in serotonin. So generally, breastfeeding is protective against these conditions. And also we found that when breastfeeding, we know that prolactin levels are high. Prolactin is the hormone that induces lactation or production of breast milk. Prolactin levels are associated with deeper slow wave sleep. So in the stages of sleep, we have N1, N2, N3 in non-REM, and then REM sleep. In non-REM, the deepest stage is N3. It's associated with a period of restorative sleep, improved immune function, and also memory consolidation. And so we find that the higher the prolactin, the deeper the slow wave sleep or the N3, N4 stage. And this is actually beneficial for the mother in the long term. Then we also say that breastfeeding is healing. So I found the conversation earlier interesting in the terms of one of our speakers describing being uncomfortable with breastfeeding, and that is true. We've been conditioned to associate breasts and breastfeed or breasts with the sexualized function. But as we do more advocacy, we should advocate that the breasts themselves are primarily a nutrition source. And as we do that, we help to take away the association that breasts are just for sexual function. They are primarily to feed the child. And so for a lot of women, as they take on breastfeeding, they find it to be healing, especially after a traumatic pregnancy or even generally after pregnancy. One thing that they are able to now do with their body that is healing, that is promoting general health, that is even helping someone else is breastfeeding. And so this is one key thing that helps the mental health of a lot of women. And also for a lot of women who have been victims of sexual abuse of various forms, reclaiming the breast for the nourishing function has been found to help their mental health because they are now able to attribute that part of their body to a greater function beyond the shame or whatever it is that they would have experienced. We also noticed that postpartum depression leads to a higher risk of reduced breastfeeding initiation and continuation. So we noticed that it's an interplay here. For women who have postpartum depression, they are more likely to not initiate breastfeeding, and they're also likely to cease breastfeeding earlier than women who do not have postpartum depression. Depression leads to lower prolactin and oxytocin, and these are key hormones in lactation. So once these hormones are going down, they may have a decreased supply and they may generally breastfeed for a lower time. Then we also find that complications associated with lactation, so pain associated with lactation, baby having latch problems, decreased supply, mastitis, and all that can make the woman feel overwhelmed. And with these overwhelming feelings, they are also likely to have an increased risk of depression, anxiety, obsessive compulsive disorder, postpartum. Prenatal anxiety and depression are more likely to stop breastfeeding. Women who have prenatal anxiety and depression are more likely to stop breastfeeding. So basically, postpartum depression is just the name. The features and symptoms of it are similar to depression outside of pregnancy or outside of the perinatal stage. So someone who had depression or anxiety prior to delivery is more likely to stop breastfeeding before 6 months postpartum, which means that this is a key area for us to intervene in order to ensure that breastfeeding goes on for as long as it should. Then women with medically treated postpartum depression are more likely to feed for longer. And here you notice that we say not just to breastfeed, but then to feed human milk. So that means that even if they are not able to directly breastfeed, they express and breastfeed human milk for longer, which also goes to highlight the point that we need to treat postpartum depression and not just let it be to run its natural course. Because in the postpartum period, we have a critical diet, and if we do not intervene, we could lose both the diets. Breastfeeding cessation due to extraneous factors. So sometimes women are unable to breastfeed. The child may have a breast milk allergy. The child may have a condition that makes it difficult for them to breastfeed immediately or to breastfeed at all. And it's been found that all those various factors, when they come together and prevent the woman from breastfeeding, such women are liable or at a higher risk of developing depression in the long run. So how we manage that period is also very critical to ensure that such women do not carry guilt or shame from not being able to breastfeed when their full intention was to breastfeed. So for the presentation of postpartum mood and anxiety disorders, without going into the various disorders, I've already spoken about depression. But this slide is particularly to highlight the things that health workers who are not mental health professionals can pick up. And so we talk about extensive focus on possible baby pathology. So we find that the woman just believes that the baby has a problem, even when the baby has been examined and nothing really has been identified. The baby has something that is preventing him or her from being able to breastfeed. Then we also, excuse me. Then we also talk about somatic complaints. So these are complaints about various parts of the body, but mainly about the breast. So even when the breast does not have any visible pathology, they would go on to complain. So maybe the nipples are not everted enough, the breast is too small, the breast is too big, the baby is not able to latch on. And these complaints may be persistent, may be dismissed by health workers because we think the mother is just being overly fussy, but these are some of the things that can help us to identify that the woman may or may have a postpartum mood and anxiety disorder. And then we have different expressions of anxiety, and I would highlight a few of them. So sometimes they may just be shopping in all manner of places with health workers online, just basically looking for something that seems elusive. So they are trying to find something that they think they can latch on to identify with and to say that this is the reason why my baby is not breastfeeding enough. They may also have the belief that there's not going to be any end to whatever the problem is. So the future looks bleak, and whatever it is that's going to happen is bound to happen and it's not going to end well. They may also have inaccurate beliefs. So despite the literature or whatever has been shared today, that maybe in the first 2 days, what you're going to have is colostrum. The volume of colostrum is quite low, but it's just enough for what the baby needs. They are going to be unsettled about that. They believe that there should be more, and they continue to seek these things out. And these are things that we may identify as we interact with them at the postnatal clinics, at the child welfare clinics. So these are things that we should latch on to do further assessments. Because usually at this stage, they may not have direct contact with a lactation consultant, but they are seeing the pediatrician, they are seeing the public health nurses, they are seeing the obstetrician gynecologist, and we should all come on board to identify these things. And then they may also believe that the baby is a bit fussy or more fussy than usual. So that's what we mean by pathologizing the baby. So this baby is too difficult. This baby cannot be pacified. And this is in excess of what it should be. So that's what we mean by pathologizing, putting a false condition there when it should not be the case. Then we also have a disconnect from the baby. And like I mentioned before, repeated self-diagnosis. So even without a diagnosis, they may be going around asking for treatment. And when you ask to evaluate them, they may withhold that because they are fixed on the fact that that's the diagnosis. This has been captured in the previous slide. But in this slide, I would want to look at the benefits of breastfeeding on infants' mental health. So it's been found that infants who are breastfed have an increase in cognitive development. So the cognitive development goes better for children who are breastfed. They also have increased security and attachment. So we talk about attachment styles, we talk about bonding, we talk about the child growing up and being able to effectively self-regulate, mood regulate, and these are better for children who are breastfed. There's also a lower incidence of anxiety and depression in later life. So in adulthood, even in the teenage years, children who are breastfed have lower incidence of anxiety and depression. So for support systems, these have been mentioned in the previous presentation. I want to highlight for health professionals. So even in the urban spaces, we do have people who can do home visits. So in the Ghana Health Service, we have community health nurses. In the mental health space, we have community mental health nurses who do home visits. So I think with this conversation, we should be able to leverage on how effectively we can educate them to be able to identify postpartum mood and anxiety disorders and to be able to signpost these women to the right resources. And as health workers, we should be screening. So we know that once you are referring a woman, there are so many roadblocks, so many things that can prevent her from reaching the person. So you're referring the woman to see a mental health professional. She may not go. She may end up, if it's a place like Kolebu, she may not even be able to locate the place. So the basic screening that we can do that helps us to be able to maybe even initiate some form of treatment is what the slide seeks to talk about. And then I also want to talk about parenting classes. So we have pregnancy classes, but we should begin to look at parenting classes where we are teaching parents how to identify when there's really something wrong and how to even parent their children, if even for the first few months of life. And a simulation village. So we have places where during the day people can go and leave their parents and then maybe pick them up at the end of the day. One of the things we'll identify in self-care is just being able to go out, to be able to talk to someone, and sometimes to be able to even talk to someone that's not related to childcare. So can we have a place where a woman can just leave the house for a few hours just to go there, have someone talk to someone, maybe even have someone hold her child that she trusts for a few minutes or hours, just so she can breathe and feel more like herself again. For policy and advocacy, that has been said already. And I believe that we should continue the conversation on that. So for self-care activities, I divided that into three. So for mindful self-care, I think one of the key things that's been identified is gratitude. If even just going over one thing that you are grateful for, that mindset helps to increase serotonin levels, and it also helps to decrease stress responses for the woman, apart from meditation and other activities. Then we talk about rest and sleep. Nutrition, hydration, exercise, and movement are key things for women. And exercise, I'm not even talking about fitness, just taking a walk around the neighborhood, just getting out of your room, being able to breathe in fresh air. And for emotional self-care, talking to professionals, having a good support system that isn't just judging your breastfeeding, but also supporting your choices and what you're doing. For treatment approaches, these are for us to know that there are approaches to mental health issues that are breastfeeding friendly, and we should not be afraid or hesitant to refer women for mental health care and support when they need it, thinking that it's going to affect breastfeeding. So in conclusion, breastfeeding and maternal mental health are intricately connected and interdependent. Early identification of postpartum mood and anxiety disorders is key to optimizing outcomes for the maternal and infant dyad. An integrated approach encompassing both breastfeeding support and mental health care is important for the success of breastfeeding and for the long-term well-being of both the mother and the baby. And there's an urgent need for all stakeholders to prioritize and create support systems for breastfeeding mothers everywhere. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Baden, for this very insightful session. I believe that the slides will be made available so that all of us as clinicians can go through and help to identify mothers who may be struggling with postpartum depression, other anxiety disorders that could affect their breastfeeding. If you have any questions for Dr. Baden, kindly put it in the chat box and it will be answered at the end of the last session. And we also have the link for the CPD points also in the chat box, so you can also fill in the details as well. For our last speaker today, many of us may have heard a few months back, for the first time in the history of the country, there was a Human Breast Milk Bank project, which was launched at the University of Ghana Medical Center. And today we have none other than the lead clinician for this project. She also happens to be in charge of the Pediatric Sickle Cell Disease Clinic at the UGMC. She completed her pediatric residency at the Children's National Hospital in Washington, D.C., after which she moved back home to Ghana in 2017. She is a specialist pediatrician, Dr. Ophelia Ganyaglo of the University of Ghana Medical Center, to take us through human milk banking. Thank you, Dr. Ganyaglo, your audience, please. Hi, everyone. Please note that after the webinar, the CPD forms will no longer accept responses. So let's kindly fill in, even as we prepare for our final speaker, let's kindly fill our CPD forms, because after the webinar, responses will not be accepted.
Can I be heard, please?
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, and thank you for this opportunity to share the birth story of human milk banking at the UGMC. So my objectives this evening are to introduce the concept of human milk banking. We will review the state of human milk banks in Africa, and then we'll also present a roadmap of UGMC's setup of a human milk bank. Please note that I'll be using the terms interchangeably, so a breast milk bank is the same as a human milk bank. This is my outline, and we will dive right in. So I'd like us to just consider a few patient scenarios. For the clinicians here, please think about how you would proceed. What would be your next best step in terms of how you would feed these babies that I'm about to present? So the first is a baby who's 12 hours old, referred to our hospital with acute respiratory distress. The baby was quickly weaned off oxygen within about an hour of admission and is now ready to feed. Baby's mom is a first-time mom who is still on admission at the referral hospital, which is on the outskirts of Accra. Our second baby is a male preterm infant who was born at 24 weeks estimated gestational age with a birth weight of 900 grams and referred to our NICU from a peripheral facility. This baby was nursed, this is actually a real baby, was nursed in the NICU for weeks. And at 36 weeks corrected gestational age and weighing 1.18 kilograms, the mother could no longer produce breast milk to meet his needs. At this point, the mother was under significant stress and had been admitted to a hospital herself with some acute health concerns. And then finally, we have a 1-week-old baby who was delivered by a spontaneous vaginal delivery. Mother started to bleed profusely after delivery and unfortunately died in the intensive care unit the previous night. So in thinking about the best way to feed these 3 babies that are presented, way back as 1980, the WHO and UNICEF made a joint declaration. And this was to the effect that in situations where it is not possible for a biological mother to breastfeed, the first alternative, if available, should be the use of human milk from other sources. They stated that human milk banks should be made available in appropriate situations. A few decades down the road, the American Academy of Pediatrics altered the statement a bit, and for them, they were advocating that significant lactation support should be provided to a mother, and it's only in a situation where this support has been provided and the mother's milk is still not available, pasteurized donor human milk should be used. And so here I have a real picture. This is not a picture from the internet. This is actually a relative of one of my senior colleagues. So her niece had accumulated this amount of breast milk over her maternity leave. And this is her little breast milk storage freezer showing her stash as she's getting ready to resume work. And so this woman or this mother would be an ideal candidate to be a donor for a breast milk bank. And so what exactly is a breast milk bank? So it's basically a service that is established to do the following: to screen milk donors, to collect, process, and store the breast milk, and then finally to distribute the donor breast milk, usually to vulnerable preterm infants or sick neonates in hospital or in the community. And so this is just a schematic showing pictorially what I have described. So initially we start with a selective donor recruitment and screening process, followed by very hygienic process of expressing and collecting the milk. The milk is stored under controlled conditions. Milk is then subsequently pasteurized. We'll talk about this further along the line. After this, there's some kind of bacteriological testing that is done. And then in the process of transporting, the milk must be transported frozen and then finally allocated to the infants who are in need. Now, just a quick, brief history on human milk banking. So I think we are all aware of the concept of wet nursing, which dates back centuries. And I'm sure we'll go to places here in Ghana where this practice is still rampant, where a woman would be employed to directly feed the child of another mother if that mother is unable to do so. So the first breast milk banks came into existence in the early 20th century as a response to increasing infant mortality rates and advancements in neonatology. And it was in 1909 that the first human milk bank was established in Vienna, Austria. 3 years later, a human milk bank was established in the US, which was in Boston. And in the 1980s, unfortunately, many milk banks had to close in North America due to the AIDS pandemic. It wasn't until 2003 when the establishment of the Human Milk Banking Association of North America came into existence with standardization of practices. And then 5 years later, the Human Milk Banking Association of South Africa was also established. So this is a map showing the global distribution of human milk banks. There are over 700 breast milk banks worldwide. These banks have a wide range of operational models and practices due to a lack of global guidelines. So every region or country has practices that are basically adapted to suit the local setting and health system. As we can see, the majority of these milk banks are concentrated in Europe and the Americas. And coming close to home in Africa, we have a total of 8 countries that have breast milk banks. South Africa is leading the charge with greater than 20 milk banks. And coming closer to home, Cameroon established their first milk bank in 2006, with Nigeria establishing their first in 2022. So with regards to the EGMC story, our story actually starts a few years ago when one of our medical officers came up with this idea. This was actually while we were taking care of the second baby that I described in the patient scenarios. However, at this point, we didn't have any funding to this effect, and there were other priorities that EGMC wanted to focus on. Last year, we were approached by this benevolent individual, Professor Cecilia Obeng, who is a daughter of Ghana and currently a professor in public health at the Indiana University School of Public Health. With partners through the University of Ghana, she approached our management with the intention of establishing a human milk bank at EGMC. This was based on a study that she had conducted in 2002 with colleagues at the Cape Coast Teaching Hospital. It was a cross-sectional survey which interviewed close to 1,000 Ghanaian women, and their results showed that 65% of the respondents stated that Ghana was ready for a human milk bank. They also found that 77% expressed a willingness to donate breast milk, and 69% believed that donating breast milk would favor their child. The challenges that they identified through the study were as follows. The idea that a human milk bank was strange or unnatural. There was the fear of infections being transferred from the donor mothers to the infant. There were also a category of women for whom their religious beliefs would not allow them to donate milk to a milk bank. And then there were some women who clearly identified insufficient information about breast milk and its importance. So there are various operational models of human milk banking worldwide, but our operational model at UGMC is going to be non-profit. So any mother who donates will not be paid cash. They'll be given tokens of appreciation. Additionally, we are hoping that with significant and sustainable sponsorship, at least for the first year of operation, we will be providing the milk free of charge to people who come to our babies who need it, mainly in the NICU and in the newborn nursery. And so who qualifies to donate milk to a breast milk bank? So this mother clearly must have milk in excess of her own baby's needs. She must be limiting the intake. So these are the general global guidelines, limiting the intake of caffeine and alcohol, should not have any risk factors for HIV or AIDS, no use of tobacco or nicotine products, and should not be on any recreational drugs. Additionally, they can only be on approved medications and supplements. They must be willing to undergo blood testing, to fill out a screening questionnaire, and also to provide informed consent. At UGMC, we have decided that our donors can be either preterm or full-term mothers who are super producers. They must be non-smokers, must not be using alcohol, and they will have to test negative for all of the following: HIV, hepatitis B and C, and syphilis. So with regards to the processes of a milk bank, we have talked about this already. So it starts off with the recruitment and screening process, with the collection, with storage, and then would like to focus now on the process of pasteurization. So pasteurization involves warming the milk to a temperature of 62.5 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes, and then cooling it down to 10 degrees Celsius over 10 to 15 minutes, and then subsequently storing at frozen or at 4 degrees Celsius. After the process of pasteurization, a sample of the milk is taken for bacterial culture to ensure that no pathogenic bacteria is present prior to it being fed to our babies. And then once the milk is pasteurized, it can be stored again frozen prior to distribution. These are pictures of equipment in our milk bank. So the one on the left is a chemi pasteurizer, which I'll talk about subsequently. And the one on the right is a thawing machine. So why the chemi pasteurizer? So it's fully automated, it is user-friendly, it requires very minimal training, it occupies less space, as we can see. And this is the volume of milk that it can pasteurize, anywhere from 10 to 500 mils of milk. The machine can also be operated several times a day, and it uses less water that is recycled. So I'd like us to go back to the patient scenarios that I presented in the beginning. And I think those scenarios will really answer this question, which is, what are the indications for using donor breast milk? So donor breast milk would be used in situations where a mother has inadequate breast milk supply in spite of significant lactation support. I think we can't emphasize this enough, that we should always be supporting mothers to breastfeed themselves initially before we fall back on donor breast milk as the next option. Donor breast milk would also be indicated if the mother is on medications that are not compatible with breastfeeding, if mother is undergoing chemotherapy for cancer, or if the mother is using some illicit drugs. Also, it is essential to be used as a bridge in full-term babies while we are waiting for the mother's milk to come in. And then if there's an unfortunate maternal death, donor breast milk would be useful then. We are now going to take a virtual tour of our human milk bank. So the hostel's management assigned 3 rooms for this purpose. The first is to be used as a counseling room. This picture was taken on the day of the launch. Our second room is the expression room, which will have recliners and hospital-grade breast pumps for this purpose. And then the processing room has the chemi pasteurizer, the thawing machine, and these are medical-grade freezers and fridges. So as we round up, we'll look at this review paper that was published early this year using data from online databases. The data was taken in 2024. And this paper essentially was focusing on human milk banking in Africa. And as we can imagine, the benefits of these human milk banks align with the benefits of breast milk. So they clearly show that there were reduced rates of necrotizing enterocolitis, which is a devastating infection which can occur in our preterm infants. There are improved neurodevelopmental outcomes. They saw clear protection from infections and overall improved survival rates. The challenges that they noted with implementation in Africa is a lack of regulation. In Ghana, for example, we currently don't have a Human Tissue Act in place. Also, concerns about social and cultural barriers, infrastructural challenges also exist. And then having a clear communication strategy when it comes to something that is completely novel and would be at risk for potential miscommunication. And then always, it's going to be important to ensure that we have a sustainable funding structure. I can't emphasize enough how essential a multidisciplinary team is in implementing a project like this. So this is a list of all the departments that have been involved so far. This list is certainly not exhaustive. We do not currently have lactation consultants at EGMC, but we are hoping that partnerships will be possible in the future. And to round up, this is a picture of a cross-section of our formidable team, and we will continue to encourage each other to achieve greater heights. Thank you so much for your attention, and these are my references.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ganyaglo, for this presentation. We are excited about the innovations that are taking place, and we hope that we will witness many more advancements in breastfeeding. Kindly check in the chat box for the evaluation forms. Please fill them for us so we can evaluate the event. We are almost at the end. Thank you all for staying from the beginning to the end. It's now time for us to take our questions. If you have any questions for any of the speakers, kindly put it in the chat box so we can read them out. So we have 2 questions. The first question was for Dr. Asamoah. Gloria Poafo wanted to know more about how the rate of breastfeeding is measured. From the presentation, it was said that the rates are reducing. So she wanted to know how they are measured. And I would ask the second question so they can both be taken together. The second question was from Amy, and she wants to know if you can breastfeed whilst you are pregnant. So these 2 questions are for Dr. Asamoah.
Yes, please. Thank you very much for the questions. So regarding breastfeeding whilst pregnant, it's completely safe. We usually say you can continue breastfeeding unless otherwise contraindicated if you have a history of recurrent miscarriages or preterm labor. Those are the main 2 instances that we would otherwise say don't breastfeed. But otherwise, it's safe. We even have mothers breastfeeding and then even delivering their newborns and breastfeeding in tandem with their toddlers. So it's completely safe. Regarding how the rates are measured, mothers are usually assessed in an interview format or during surveys with data collection. I think the most recent one was done in collaboration with WHO. From this data, it was collated to look at the 24-hour recall and feeding patterns of mothers and their babies to determine whether they had been able to maintain that breastfeeding to the 6-month point or whether they even initiated in the first place. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much, Dr. Asamoah. I think it does. Our next question is to Dr. Ganyaglo. Mariam wants to know if the breast milk donation has started at UGMC already. Has the breast milk donation started at UGMC?
So the simple answer is no, but it should be by the end of this month. We're finalizing some training and logistics, and we will send out a communique once we are ready to start receiving donations.
Okay, thank you. So Diana wants to know, are women who lactate not because they have newborn babies, but due to hormonal issues, qualified to donate such breast milk?
So this question has come up before, and I think when the question was asked, the answer was breast milk is breast milk. But I think really, like I've said, we are looking for mothers who have had a baby, so have had a preterm baby or a full-term baby, because the idea is that we want to benefit from the physiologic process that goes on during pregnancy. And so I do not believe that if someone is just lactating because of hormonal issues, they would qualify to be a donor.
Okay, thank you for the answer. Our next question is, a woman came to deliver in the facility. I believe this is for Dr. Samoa. A woman came to deliver in the facility and the baby was brought to the NICU where I work. According to her, she lactates 3 days postpartum. How do we solve such a problem since she opted for formula feed?
Okay, so this question is a bit tricky, but I think it comes down to having a discourse with the woman and actually understand what she means by lactating, because all women will tend to have the milk coming around that 3 to 4 days. So for a woman who's saying she doesn't lactate till 3 days postpartum, it means maybe she's not really considering her colostrum as her lactating once she doesn't see that whitish color of milk. So it will come to addressing her general understanding of milk and its composition, and knowing that colostrum, even those small yellow drops, are actually breast milk for baby. So I think that needs to be addressed before you can accept and say that you'll go ahead with formula feeding. Some women just do not know that colostrum is for baby. Some think of it as dirty milk. There's a lot of misconceptions around colostrum. So I think it really comes with a lot of education.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Asamoah. The next question is to Dr. Mamikua Baden. Dr. Nyan wants to know, does the duration of breastfeeding have implications on the long-term mental health as compared to just the act of breastfeeding?
Thank you. Sorry. Yes. Before I respond to that, I had my hand up. So I wanted to respond to the question about the data collection. So basically, within the Ghana Health Service, actually, there is a system for that. In the antenatal record book, there's actually a section where they take that data, and all the data that they take in the book is actually entered into the DIMS, and that feeds even our national data as well. So there's a question on whether or not you breastfed, how long exclusive breastfeeding went on, and the total duration of breastfeeding. So the data doesn't just come from external data collection sources. Even within, we are able to assess that information, and that also informs public policy. Then on the question, so yes, it does. Even just looking at the biomechanics of the hormones, as we mentioned, if we are looking at the effects of oxytocin and prolactin, the longer you are exposed to oxytocin and prolactin, the lower the stress outcomes. Actually, cortisol levels are lower, which means that stress response is also lower. And we talked about the effect of prolactin on sleep, on general well-being. And we know that in lay terms, oxytocin is described as the love hormone. So the longer you're exposed to this, then obviously long-term mental health outcomes are definitely more optimal than someone who breastfeeds for a shorter duration of time, not to mention the sense of achievement and other things that come into play. But I'll quickly throw in the fact that when we talk about mental health conditions, we have what we call a biopsychosocial model. So just because you're having a protective effect here doesn't mean that you are excluded totally from mental health conditions. There are other things that can feed into you having a risk for a mental health condition. But in terms of the question, yes, it does. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Baden. We are taking our last 3 questions. The next question is also for Dr. Baden. Gladys wants to know, how long should a woman being managed for postpartum depression be on medication?
Thank you for the question. So once again, treatment is individualized. So without knowing the intricacies of that particular woman's condition, however, knowing that postpartum depression is quite severe and requires attention, we would not treat for any less duration of anything less than 6 months. However, all this is individualized and tailored. So I would be cautious to throw out a caveat, but the woman should expect to be on treatment for no less than 6 months.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Baden. The next question is for Dr. Asamoah from Yasafua. Will the new baby get colostrum when the mother breastfeeds both her toddler and newborn?
So yes, the body actually begins producing colostrum soon after birth. So the body will still produce that colostrum. Usually what we do say is in the initial days, prioritize breastfeeding to the newborn. But feeding both newborn and toddler does not deprive baby or mother of producing colostrum at all.
Thank you. I see there's a question about where clients can be directed to see lactation consultants, and a link has been put in the chat box so we can look at that. The last two questions will be, can you start pumping before birth to stimulate lactation before baby comes, so baby has milk ready as soon as baby is born, so there's no delay, since a lot of women's milk come in 3 to 4 days after delivery?
Yes, so you can actually start, ideally, I tend to say once your term, so 37 weeks, just because that breast stimulation can actually be a means of going into labor, but nothing stops you from expressing or starting that pumping process before baby comes. And even ideally for mothers who usually have risk of having difficulty with supply, like our diabetic mothers, we do actually encourage them to start expressing, especially knowing that their babies are going to be at high risk and need that breast milk early. So yes, we do actually encourage expressing even before baby comes. The main thing is just knowing how to store that breast milk appropriately so it's safe for newborn consumption. So usually we say once it's freshly expressed, at room temperature can be there for about 4 hours. If you're putting it in a fridge, ideally at the back of the fridge, not on the doors where the temperature can vary. If it's at about 4 degrees, we say that can stay there for about 4 days. And then if you have a freezer and you're regulating the temperature to being negative 18 degrees, we can keep it in there for about 6 months at a regular freezer, or up to 12 months if it's a deep freezer. I think that also addresses the following question as well.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much for the answers. And this brings us to the end of our presentations. This has been an enlightening and highly educative session and webinar. And I hope that we leave here equipped with knowledge that will truly enhance our care and support for breastfeeding mothers. Our sponsors have been Pharma Symbiosis, and we would give them the opportunity to give us a short presentation before our chairperson gives his remarks. So please stay with us. It's just going to be a short presentation. Then our chairperson gives his remarks, then we can close. So we'd like to invite Pharma Symbiosis.
Hi, good evening, guys. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Tracy Afram from Pharma Symbiosis Limited. I'm here to discuss how to optimize malaria treatment and Paramac's role in addressing those treatment gaps. Please, can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
Okay. So this is a short overview on Pharma Symbiosis. At Pharma Symbiosis, we partner with local partners and international partners as well to provide compliant world-class solutions to bridge healthcare gaps in Ghana. We have 4 main values. That's patients focus, passion, integrity, and innovation as well. We are present both in Anglophone and Francophone Africa. We partner with Kite, Sanofi, Asino, and also Shimpong. Some of the pediatric products that we have include Enevi, folic acid, and vitamin C. We have Mometasone cream, that's Elica.
Tracy, please, we lost you.
Please, can you see my slides?
Yes, we can.
So we also have Fusibat, that's fusidic acid cream. We have OptiFresh.
Hello, Tracy. Your screen is not showing.
Hi, Dr. Anna. Please, I'm working on that. Please, can you see it now?
Yes, we can.
Yes, please. Thank you. Sorry about that. So we also have OptiFresh, which is an eye drop, and then we have strawberry flavored azithromycin suspension for kids as well. Now to the condition of focus, malaria. I have a friend, let's call her AC. AC returned home from work one evening and realized that her 3-year-old daughter had some fever, was complaining of a headache, and wasn't eating well. She then decided to take her to the hospital where she was diagnosed with malaria. Upon being diagnosed, the doctor then prescribed an anti-malarial for her. She proceeded to the pharmacy for her medication. The pharmacist then told her that her daughter was going to take the second dose of her anti-malarial as dawn. She realized that it would not be possible for her to comply. She then went back to the doctor to find out if there was an alternative first line that she could take that would be more convenient. Today, we believe that we have the solution to AC's daughter's problem from Shimpong Pharma. So Shimpong is a high-quality global manufacturer with 7 manufacturing plants worldwide, with the Paramax plant being established in 2008 through to 2011. Shimpong is known for its interest in neglected tropical disease and malaria management and has been a major worldwide API supplier for mebendazole, albendazole, and praziquantel. In 2001, it partnered with Medicines for Malaria Venture to begin research and development into Paramax. In 2018, Paramax was launched. So Paramax can then be said to be a public-private partnership between Shimpong Medicines for Malaria Ventures and University of Iowa. I'm sure at some point in time, we've all gotten malaria before. So why are we still talking about malaria? This is one of the reasons why. So this is the WHO malaria threat map for treatment failure across Africa. You can see relatively higher rates of treatment failure with AL across Africa and even with BHAP, and significantly lower rates with artesunate spironolactone. Now let's narrow it down to Ghana. So in Ghana, we can see that across the regions, we are seeing varying rates of treatment failure as well with AL and no treatment failure with artesunate spironolactone. This information is from data from 2010 to 2025. So last year, the National Malaria Elimination Program was introduced. And as part of the strategic plan, it outlined 3 main goals. That's to reduce malaria mortality by 100% by 2028, reduce malaria case incidence by 50% by 2028, and also eliminate malaria in 21 districts with very low malaria burden also by 2028. So to be able to achieve these goals, we need medications that have very low treatment failure, that is convenient and also very efficacious. So what are some of the problems that we also have facing malaria? That's complex dosing. So I highlighted that AC's daughter was told to take her anti-malarial at dawn. That's one of the challenges that we have facing the anti-malarials currently used on the market. She had to go back to the doctor. But for some patients, they don't go back, but don't comply to their medications as well. So we have the complex dosing regimen that also leads to poor patients' compliance. We have inadequate drug quality, as well because of the varying brands of anti-malaria on the market. We have compromised drug absorption due to the fact that some antimalarials have to be taken after food or strictly without food, and also more frequent recrudescence and reinfection. In 2017, artesunate pyranidine was added to the WHO Model Essentials list for children and for adults. Also, this is the most recent anti-malarial medicine policy that highlights that artesunate pyranidine has been added as a first-line anti-malarial for the management of uncomplicated malaria. So Paramax is also in 26 countries and has marketing authorization in 40. And now the overview. So Paramax is used for the treatment of acute Plasmodium falciparum and blast stage B vivax malaria. It's highly and rapidly efficacious, is well tolerated, and the regimen is simple. It's taken once a day with or without food for 3 days. We also say that Paramax is child friendly because Paramax is currently the only anti-malarial that you can dissolve the pediatric formulation in milk or in a citrus containing juice. There's no specific test or monitoring required. There's no food restrictions. It has a 2-year shelf life and it's stable at high temperature and humidity. That's zone 4B where we find ourselves in Ghana. So Paramax contains artesunate and pyranidine. Artesunate has a fast onset and a short elimination time. The pyranidine molecule has an intermediate long half-life of about 14 to 18 days as well. It's present in a ratio of 3:1. That is, the pyranidine molecule's concentration is 3 times the concentration of artesunate. Now, some of the studies that were performed, you have the CANTAM study that shows the high effectiveness of Paramax or artesunate pyranidine. From here, the WHO threshold for effectiveness is 90%, and we have Paramax or artesunate pyranidine exceeding that 90% to 98.6%. But with AL and ASAQ, we find out that it doesn't actually even reach the 90% threshold. So here we also have the West African Network for Clinical Trials of Anti-Malarial Drugs. That's the WINICAM study that shows the 92-day post-treatment protection from malaria with Paramax. This can be explained due to the elimination half-life of the pyranidine, which is 14 to 18 days. This slide also shows that Paramax is the least cardiotoxic anti-malaria of the ones on the market because it has the smallest QTC interval prolongation of them. So when we are looking out for an anti-malarial, we are looking for something that will clear the parasites fast. So we all realize that typically patients tend to get better from the 2nd to 3rd day. That is because it clears the parasites in 35 hours. With Paramax, we are saying that they are going to clear the parasites within 24 hours. That's by the 2nd dose, we are getting the parasites cleared from the body. These are some of the key advantages of Paramax. It's taken once a day. It maintains the same efficacy and safety, whether it's taken with or without food. And it's also indicated for Plasmodium falciparum and P. vivax malaria. There's no limited number of treatments, and it's not contraindicated with any drug or any previous ACT that has been known to prolong the QTC. The side effects profile is actually also similar to AL. Just that with Paramax, you get significantly lower QTC interval prolongation. Paramax can also slightly increase the liver enzymes, but this is infrequent. There's no need for there's no need for intervention, and normally resolves by day 28 without any clinical signs. Some common side effects include mild abdominal pain, headaches, and vomiting. Now, to the dosing, I mentioned that it's taken once a day, it's taken with or without food. So we have the granules for children and we have the tablets for adults. So from 5 to lesser than 8 kg, takes 1 sachet daily for 3 days. As I mentioned, with a children formulation, they can actually mix it with milk or a citrus containing juice. From 8 to lesser than 15 kg, 2 sachets daily for 3 days. From 15 to lesser than 20 kg, is 3 sachets daily for 3 days. Also for the tablets, From 20 to lesser than 24 kg, 1 tablet daily for 3 days. From 24 to lesser than 45 kg is 2 tablets daily for 3 days. From 45 to lesser than 65 kg is 3 tablets daily for 3 days. And greater than 65 kg is 4 tablets daily for 3 days. So as I mentioned, the children formulation is present in granules or sachet that you can mix it with water, you can mix it with milk, or you can mix it with a citrus containing juice. From 5 to lesser than 8 kg, 1 sachet daily for 3 days. 8 to lesser than 15, 2 sachets daily for 3 days. And from 15 to lesser than 20 kg, 3 sachets daily for 3 days. So the adult formulation comes as the green pack and the children formulation with the orange pack. So as I mentioned with my friend AC, I mentioned that I believe we have the solution for her today because Paramax is taken once daily, so it's more convenient. It's taken with or without food. So AC could have administered the Paramax to her child over there, and it's also child friendly because you can mix it with juice, you can mix it with milk as well. So, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that we've provided the ideal anti-malarial for AC and for all patients that present with malaria today.
Thank you so much, Pharmacy Symbiosis Tracy, for that presentation. If there are any questions for Tracy, it can be put in the chat box. You can also leave your contact so that anybody who wants to reach out to you can do so. Thank you to all the astute clinicians, pediatricians, obstetricians, pediatric nurses, midwives, mothers, and anyone who has been here. You've been an excellent audience. It's been 2.5 hours and you've stayed through. We will take our chairperson's remarks before our closing prayer. So we invite Dr. Bracco to give us his closing remarks before our closing prayer.
Good evening. We have moved from afternoon to evening. Ladies and gentlemen, as we conclude this inspiring session, I wish to thank our speakers for their insightful presentations and all participants for their active participation. Our theme for this year, as we all know, is strong support for a strong start, empowering mothers in Ghana to breastfeed everywhere. This is not just a slogan, but it's a call for action, where support means creating friendly places, encouraging communities, ensuring policies that protect every mother's right to breastfeed everywhere and anytime. Let's each live here committed to being champions of breastfeeding, whether through advocacy, education, or direct support to mothers. I have some few take-home messages, such as zero separation after birth, WHO recommendation that says initiate breastfeeding within 1 hour after birth, which is one of our indicators in the DIMS 2. Information on storage of breast milk is very important that we circulate. We have to encourage KMC in low birth weight and preterms to promote breastfeeding. We have to make sure our baby-friendly initiative hospital policies and workplace policies are put to use. Peer support groups in breastfeeding for very small babies is very essential. Family involvement, as we mentioned earlier, fathers should be more into breastfeeding so that it will encourage their wives. We have to make sure our postpartum blue and postpartum depression is taken seriously. Breastfeeding is healing, as said. So, at this juncture, together, we can ensure that every child in Ghana has the healthiest possible beginning in life. Thank you once again, and we look forward to working with you to make this vision a reality. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chairperson. It's been an honor to have you. Finally, we will invite Chairperson of the Pediatric Society of Ghana, Greater Accra, Dr. Ernestina Shandov, to give a few announcements. Then we take the closing prayer from Dr. Bright Daniel.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Anna, and thank you, Chair, for chairing this occasion. Thanks to all the speakers for your wonderful and excellent and insightful presentations. We really learned a lot, and I hope we would all be advocates. Let's make this a reality. Let's make sure next year by this time, things are different, that every woman is able to breastfeed anywhere, and that we will support exclusive breastfeeding for all children so that we have a healthier future and a healthier Ghana. So thank you all so much for participating. Thank you for being an awesome audience. And despite the timing, most of you have stayed. Few announcements are, please let's not forget to regularize our membership with Pediatric Society of Ghana. We would put up the link again on the main pages. If you would want to be a member, please do register. And also a reminder of our dues. Okay, let's make sure that we let the society grow into a better society, a bigger society that will have more and more impact. And our dues are really important to sustain the society. So I plead with all of you to please make sure you try and pay your dues. This month, the advocacy hasn't ended, it's just begun. So in all our facilities, in all our OPDs, let's continue to spread the message of the importance of breastfeeding. Let's take our time, a minute or two, to teach our mothers the effective ways of breastfeeding, the positioning, the things to do to improve lactation, and the importance of mental health. Okay, let's also speak to our fathers, our grandmothers, to offer that support, because that support is really needed. And it's not just for the baby. That baby could be the president of Ghana in a few years to come, and we'll all have an impact in making Ghana greater. So let's take that extra time to make sure we advocate for exclusive breastfeeding and support breastfeeding everywhere for these mothers. So thank you so much for staying on. I would like to end, and I would like our General Secretary, Dr. Ritsam, I'd like our dear moderator, Dr. Anna, I would like to thank her very much for moderating this meeting so seamlessly. And thank you very much, all of you, for sticking to time. So over to you, dear moderator.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
To you and the entire Greater Accra team for putting this together for us. We will invite Dr. Bright Daniel to give us the closing prayer.